You're listening to Permission To, the podcast where we dive into the science and soul of owning your worthiness as a perfectly imperfect human being. I'm your host, Sam Dew, psychotherapist, positive psychology coach, mama to a beautiful 5-year-old Amelie, and passionate advocate for living an inspired life. My aim is to show you that you have full permission to own your worthiness so that you can embrace your true nature and begin walking boldly toward your dreams. Let's dive in. Hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of Permission To. We have such a fun episode for today. I actually asked a question on my Instagram stories last week, and I asked, what would you like to hear more about from me, or what would you like to hear on this podcast? And someone said, I would love to know how you plan your week and your day, because, as you know, I really value making sure that I prioritize play and joy in my life, as well as obviously always trying to grow and expand my business and be a present mama for my daughter. So, there's a lot of different elements going on in my life at the moment, and I thought it's quite a fun thing to share. So this is going to be a really informal, fun episode. I'm just going to be chatting about how I plan my week and how I plan my day, and sharing with you little nuggets that I've learnt along the way. I'm so lucky at the moment. I think some of you may know this already, but we've been renovating for the last couple of months, and it's been a very delayed process. So our builder has actually lent us his office so that I can work out of his office this week, and we're hopefully moving back into our house next week. But his office just happens to have the most beautiful views overlooking the ocean. So I'm feeling pretty grateful today. As much as, of course, I want the renovation to be finished, there's still a lot to be grateful for as well. So when it comes to planning my week, it's actually something that I really enjoy doing. I am a bit of a diary junkie, I guess you could say. Like, I really love buying a planner every year, and I usually am really intentional about which planner I choose and use it really consistently throughout my life. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Danielle Laporte, who created the Desire Map planner, and that's a planner that I've been using for the last 2 years, and I think her work has really influenced the way that I plan my week and my day. I'm going to share a little bit more about her and her work in the show notes below. But essentially every Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, I get my diary out. So I get my paper diary out, and I will already have in I use Google Calendar and paper diary actually. So my Google Calendar will already have all my client sessions booked for the week, and if there's anything, any family commitments, for example, if my daughter's got something on after school that we all need to know about, then that will be in Google Calendar as well, because I really like to share the mental load. So I make sure that anything that myself and my husband need to know about, that I will put us both in the Google Calendar invite so that he knows what's going on as well. So I do use a mixture of Google Calendar and a paper diary, but Sunday I basically plan out my week. So I look at what I've already committed to, what's going on with business, with clients, with family, and then I also look at what I need to do to look after myself. And so at the moment, because I'm pregnant with baby number 2, that's a lot of prioritizing my physical health and well-being. I'm doing acupuncture every Saturday, going to water aerobics once or twice a week, and then Pilates once or twice a week. And as I have shared in my Follow the Plan, Not the Mood, I find sometimes I don't feel like I'm in the mood to do some of those things like Pilates, but I also feel really great afterwards. So what I do is I plan those things out in my diary, Usually my Pilates is at the same time every week and I've kind of pre-booked it, but if anything comes up and I need to move that around, I'll make sure that I'm still going. And I also put any family commitments in the diary. But the main thing I do, I've got a couple of things that I consistently do every week. Mondays for me, because I am a small business owner, I keep Mondays client free, which means that that's my day to be the CEO in my business and to work on my business. So ideally that's things like recording podcasts or working on launches, creating content, but also like really having space to think about my business and reflect on it. So I love having Mondays to do that. It just makes it almost feels like I have a long weekend because I really love working on my business like that. And then I also have Fridays client free. And so I generally don't book in any commitments on a Friday. Besides, like if I want to do something fun, like maybe I might go to a co-working day, or I might go for lunch with some girlfriends or go to the beach or something like that. But I really like to keep Fridays free. And that's the other thing about the way I plan my week. I like to have lots of white space, which essentially means not overscheduling. Like I try not to have like something booked, every hour of the day. I try to have a lot of space in my day because I can be quite a slow worker. I like to work quite gently, and sometimes I need like a longer period of space to kind of get into a creative flow with things. So like especially the Mondays and the Fridays, if I have all that space, I find that's really good for my business. And then generally I will see clients, like I'll either schedule my group calls like Permission Granted or my new group program Worthy to Expand. They're usually on a Tuesday or a Thursday, occasionally on a Wednesday. And yeah, they're the 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, where I mostly show up in my business for my community, and I love those days as well. But what I have noticed is that I work better with more structure, and I found a lot of my clients, they kind of are really flexible, and so they'll like offer coaching calls if they're coaches as well. They'll offer coaching calls or counseling calls or supervision calls or whatever kind of work they do in their business, like 5 days a week. And they give so much choice to their clients, which is lovely. But what ends up happening is they don't really end up with that white space as much. So for me, it works really well to kind of do this time blocking model. But I like to say that I have a flexible routine. So, there is structure within my week, but there's also a lot of flexibility. And that's the beauty of that white space of not overscheduling your calendar, because if something happens, like if I get sick or if my daughter gets sick and she has to have a day off school, then even though Friday's usually my play day, if I need to work on my business on a Friday, I can do that because I'm not overbooked. So that's how I plan my week. And yeah, it's pretty simple. I just really try to make sure that I'm prioritizing things that bring me joy and pleasure, as well as moving forward with my business. And for me, they go really hand in hand. It was when I started my dance classes a couple of years ago that I really felt like I got this renewed energy for life and business. And so I don't really think that scheduling time in to go to Pilates or to go to the beach or to catch up with a girlfriend is taking away from my business or my family. I feel like it's actually really benefiting both. Obviously, I had to do some work to get my business to this point where I can work like this, but yeah, it's something I'm really, really grateful for and that works really well for me and my business and my family. So then the next thing is I kind of do this weekly plan, right? But then every day I also like to just sit down. This is kind of, I guess it's the main thing that I do as a morning routine, because I don't really have like a set routine every morning like some people do. I guess because every day is different for me. Like some days I'm doing school drop off, some days I'm not. Some days I have clients, some days I don't. I've just never really had a really, really strict morning routine. But what I do love to do is to have a chai latte, because I don't drink coffee anymore. So I've replaced coffee with chai, and I love getting a chai latte from a cafe, or we even make them at home. And I love to sit and drink that mindfully. That would either be before I start my day if I'm working in my business, or after I've done school drop off if I've got a day off and I've got some time to myself. And then I like to get out my Danielle Laporte diary, and I like to just go over my schedule for the day again. What I love about her diary and her model is that it asks you to think about how you want to feel first, which is something I really coach my clients to do as well, like to think about how you want to feel, and then what thoughts are going to create that feeling. So if, let's say, I'm working on a launch and I'm feeling really nervous about it, and I want to feel excited and inspired, then I would think, okay, well, what thoughts are going to support me to feel excited and inspired? And so I write down those nourishing thoughts and intentional actions at the top of my diary. If I've been working on any affirmations with my business coach or my mindset coach, or anything that's just come up for me that I want to remember, I also write that at the top of my diary. And then I write down the 3 most important tasks that are a priority for me that day. So on the days when I'm, holding space for women in Permission Granted, or Worthy to Expand, or working with clients one-on-one, I might not be doing a lot of other work. And so my focus might be really on serving those women and holding space for them and supporting them. On the Monday and the Wednesday, when I'm not really seeing clients very often, those 3 intentions might be much more around my business, like recording a podcast or something like that. But I really try to keep it to only 3 things, because what I find happens for myself, and maybe you can relate to this too, is sometimes, especially when my daughter was younger and I didn't have a lot of time to myself to work on my business, I would get so excited when I had a couple of hours free that I would try to do everything at once, and then I'd get really overwhelmed and I wouldn't really get anything done. So I find like 3 is a really, really powerful amount to keep you focused and really work on what you want to prioritize for the day. The reason I love planning out my day and planning out my week is because I think it helps us get off autopilot. So I talk a lot about, that we need to become aware of our mindset and the stories we're telling ourselves and get off autopilot so that we're not just buying into those automatically. It's the same with how we plan our week and our day. What I find is if I don't plan my week and if I don't plan my day, then I can end up in autopilot, and I can end up saying yes to lots of things that don't really serve me. I can end up doing things in the week that aren't actually a priority for me, and I don't end up actually getting to focus on my goals and the things that I really want to work on. So this is one of the reasons that I really enjoy planning my day. And there's a section in my diary for body and wellness too, and so I always like to make sure, like, what am I doing today to kind of nurture my body? Am I going to Pilates? Am I going to water aerobics? Am I going for a walk, or am I having a rest? But just getting really intentional about that. And other than that, I like to do some belly breathing to really breathe into my belly to make sure that I'm calm and feeling nourished. And that's it. It's pretty simple, but I think it's also really, really powerful and really effective for me to plan my week. So I would love to know, if you're listening to this episode, how you have gone with planning your day and your week. Do you plan it? Do you think about yourself and prioritize even a little bit of time for yourself amongst your week? Or do you feel like you do sometimes just slip into survival mode and end up on autopilot, kind of serving everybody else and forgetting about you? I know we all have different lives, we all work different hours, we all have different levels of support. But I guess the invitation in this podcast episode is there a way that you could schedule in even a little bit more white space into your week? And is there a way that you could schedule a little bit more play and joy into your week? And I'm really mindful that I'm recording this episode when a lot of women in Australia are in lockdown. Overseas, not as much, but I know that, I want to acknowledge that it might be a really, really challenging time for you to schedule any time in for you. And if that's how you're feeling, that's okay as well. There are definitely times in life where we do have to go into survival mode. And I know that when we were in lockdown, I felt like sometimes, the things that I wanted to prioritize, they didn't get prioritized as much. But I guess as much as possible, depending on when you're listening to this episode and what's going on in your life, this is another invitation to prioritize you, even in a really, really small way, even if it is sitting down for 5 minutes and doing a little bit of journaling and drinking a hot cup of tea mindfully in peace if possible. And just remembering that, we get to kind of plan our week and not be on autopilot with it. And that's also, I guess, got a lot to do with what we say yes to and what we say no to, which is something I've also shared, and that is coming up in the next episode, permission to learn to say no. So that's it for today. I'm sending you all the love, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, I would be so grateful if you could leave me a 5-star review so that I can help get the word out about permission to, and really help women to step into their worthiness and expand their hopes and dreams for their lives. I'll see you again next week.